Hello and welcome to the Stop Devaluation Podcast. I'm your host and founder of the Stop Devaluation movement, Melody Hilton. The heart of this movement is to see the value in all of humanity and live courageous lifestyles of using our power for good instead of harm. We can affect change by choosing validation over judgment, and I hope you'll take your place and make a positive impact in this world. Welcome, everyone, to the Stop Devaluation My Story interview. And today I have the honor to introduce to you Clyde Lewis.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Hilton. I'm so honored that you asked me to be on your podcast. And I'm just so blessed and honored by that. So thank you so much for having me today.
You are very welcome. And I can't wait for you to talk about how you generate value in your world. But the fact is, so often our pain becomes our purpose. And because of things that have happened in our lives that tried to devalue us or shame us or hold us back or distort our identity or our purpose, ultimately becomes that voice that we have to impact our world. So first of all, Clyde, I'd love to hear your story.
You know, growing up with five sisters in Portland here, it was amazing. But at a young age, I experienced very young, probably around 8 years old, the first time hearing my mom scream, and it was like a scream of like panic, terror. And it was my dad abusing her and physical abuse. And I didn't know, my other siblings, I'm the baby of five sisters. And so I didn't know anything. And I hear this scream that I've never heard before. And then come to find out, hearing what happened, seeing her cry, seeing that. And from that, I developed this belief system that I have to be afraid. I'm not good enough. I can remember one particular time that we were asleep in a one-bedroom apartment because my parents, my dad was injured on the job. He worked for a company as far as I can remember, and he got injured on the job, and so he got laid off. And so we didn't have money. Things were really tight, and so three of my sisters were out of the house and two of my other sisters were in the home. We stayed in this one-bedroom apartment, but we were asleep one night and my dad was gone and then I can hear him coming through the door and then this fight breaking, things shattering and all of this. And we jump up and I remember as a little boy grabbing something to protect myself.
Wow.
To go out to see my mom's face just bleeding and just was horrified and my dad's gone. And so it's that, that belief that like, this is the way life is going to be for me. This is the way that I'm going to be raised in a domestic violence home. That's just where it is. Grew up on, pancakes, top ramen, sometimes cereal with water in it, because we didn't have milk. It was hard. But I love my dad. That's the key. I love him. So I looked at this man like this is what I'm to do. And so I just raised up in that. But I remember my sister, my oldest, is like, you don't have to be subject to that. And so, they started raising me. And then fast forward ahead, there was I'll never forget it. There was across the street from where we lived, there was this legal clinic. And so I remember going over there and just befriending these lawyers who were friends. And they would allow me to sweep the front of the sidewalk in front of their office. And they took me in. And so they gave me my first birthday party. They allowed me to come home, be with their families. And so they took me in at a young age. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. But for me, longing to say, I wish my family could have this type of experience. I wish when I went to their homes that I said, man, I wish my family would have a home setting like this. And So it was really trying growing up, but through the process of growing up, I really developed this idea of, is this the way life is going to be? And I kept reminding myself, afraid to go to sleep at night at times, afraid to get up, afraid to feel like something's going to happen in the middle of the night because of my dad's violence. And so I just would always be on the defense protection mode and
Yeah.
self protect and self promote. And so I just remember just walking through those storms of life, but and also going to school. I mean, we were bussed out. We didn't go to our local school. So
Mm.
one of the biggest things that I love about my mom was that she was so hard on education, even through the midst of our condition. She never let our condition stop us with education. I
Wow.
remember the teacher calling my mom, telling my mom, there's something wrong with Clyde. He is mentally retarded. And
Oh,
so we're going to have you come in and we may need to put him in special ed. And my mom was like, there's nothing wrong with my son. There's nothing wrong. And I remember going home that day and my mom and my dad, they were furious. You're not mentally retarded. Now we have to go to the school. We have to defend you. This is not okay. And I just, once again, already feeling that isolation, separation, feeling like, oh man, I screwed up, and I was afraid of my dad that he would hurt me because he hurt my mom. And so
mm.
I was like, oh man. I remember going to that meeting with my parents and the teacher and some other teachers were there. It's like he's delayed. He didn't pass his hearing test, and he gets bored really quickly. He causes distraction. He gets angry, and see me not knowing and
Yeah.
them not knowing what was going on,
Right.
like going on at home with the violence and things like that. So, but they like we're going to put him in a special ed behavior classroom, and so I was like, okay, my belief system now is like I'm mentally retarded. I can't get an education. I'm a mess. But I remember this one teacher stood up and said, "There's nothing wrong with him. He just gets bored very quickly. He does his work, he gets it done, but he gets bored. We got to keep him going." And the other teachers like, "No, we're going to do this." The culture in the classroom was in a mainstream class. It was a little bit overwhelmed. Like today, there was a lot of kids in the class, low income schooling. These kids are, inner city, just on the side. And so then I remember the teacher telling me, she said, Clyde, you're mentally retarded. You will never get a good job. You will never be able to read and write. And so you always are going to have help.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, I lived that. And so growing up, it was always my passion to be in law enforcement, to be a police officer. I always wanted to be a police officer. But what limited me in that was I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I can't read. I can't spell. And I'm not going to get a good job. And but the fascinating thing is that I was a leader. I was in student government. When I was in high school, I was student body president. And I'm
Wow.
thinking, and I've been part of me, Millie, I was thinking like, if I'm mentally retarded, how can I lead and how can I do all these things? But I had people fight for me.
Yeah.
I had people fight for me.
Well, that's really
So
powerful that you said that because you talked about the lawyers and then now you've just said, I had people fight for me. So tell me about some individuals who saw your value, saw your worth, that fought for you and invested into you to begin to break off all those lies that you believed about yourself.
it was next door to that lawyer place was this other house, and they were Catholic Church Jesuits, and I befriend them too. And so I had these two places, these lawyers and these group of Jesuits, and they would live in the house, and I would go there every day after school, and they would see value in me.
Yeah.
They would teach me to read because what you need to understand is that I developed this belief system that I am not good enough, that I will never be good enough. So what's the point of trying? What's the
Right.
point of like diving into education? I was deflated as a young man. I was in this domestic violence home. We didn't have enough food. we lived in at the time in the 1988 where gang violence and Crips and Bloods were running rapid. My family members were gang members, and so we just lived in this violent, of Portland, side of Portland. And so then next you know, these guys that seen value in me, they would teach me to read, they would teach me to write, and they would say, Clyde, you can do this. And I would be so frustrated. I'd be like, I can't do it. And one of them her name was Kathleen. She would just speak to me. She's like, Clyde, you are going to do this. If you do not read, for 30 minutes, you can't come to the house today.
Wow.
So they would put the restrictions around me. I had to do something in order to come in. Same thing with my friends that were lawyers. They would do the same thing. They would say, okay, you can't come to the office today until you get your homework done. And they will map it out. And then when it became summer, they're like, Clyde, you're not going to hang out at the office all day. They said to me, we paid for you to go to day camp.
Wow.
So you have to go to day camp. And so they invested in me when I didn't see myself as valuable. They see me valuable. And I'll never forget that. That I will never forget how people see value in me. And I am where I am today is because people see value in me. Then now that value has been a value that's been a legacy that I can value other people.
Yes.
I feel good when I value people every day.
So please share how you do generate value in others at this time in your life.
Over the last couple of years, one of my good mentors, his name is Jamie. That's incredible. He began to walk me through this process of identity. I lived that out of this false view of myself. It was demonstrating a negative emotion that I based in a belief system, and I learned through that experience that resides in the form of these memories. I had these wounded memories. When my parents divorced, there was a season in my life that I lived with other people. I lived with a family for 3 years. And my mom moved to Seattle. My dad lived in Portland. I lived with other families. And so I had these memories of like, I'm abandoned. I'm not good enough. I will never get a good job based on what teachers told me. So I lived this lie. And so through this process, and so now I approach life now, not in a false view of myself, not with the false identities that were placed on me and things that that's come around in my life, because I had to also address the internal conflict. That's all that is. It was an internal conflict. And then after I addressed that internal conflict, now I'm like, every day I get up and I say, okay, in my identity, I am a pioneer. And so I start doing things, I start making things happen. So now I add value. I serve in our community, our law enforcement. I serve people in business. I help people, walk people in companies in this, what we call transformation identity, and walking people through what I just walked through. It has absolutely been beautiful. But the key is understanding that the false view of myself will paralyze me if I stay in that place. I always tell people, don't let the false identity, the false self paralyze you. What does absolute love say to you? But before you go to absolute love and really know what love really says to you, you have to separate it. Okay, that all these false views of myself, I'm going to set that pain aside. I'm going to set that negative identity aside. And I'm going to say, okay, what does absolute love say? And love really says to me, because I got to go in the intuitive mind side of it and bring it down into the rational. And then I live out of that, what I've brought into the rational, and make it my own.
So you're taking this truth and you're investing into business, into the police department, into different spheres of society. You are impacting the identity of so many others through the journey that you walk through.
Yes. And as I've done that, it is adults, children, 7th grade, 6th grade. We did this process with a sixth graders, seventh graders, high schoolers, and it was beautiful. When you live in the identity as a sounding board and as a pioneer, when you embrace life and you live in that, oh man, the roots that you've lived in are all gone, and you live in that. Oh, you'll be confident.
As you were talking, I see this man who had everything against him to destroy his identity, but you have learned principles and you have an understanding of your value and your worth, and it's transformed your life. It's impacting your family. It's impacting your community. It's impacting leaders. And from that place, it brings health. And I love all the things that you're sharing, because every single person listening to you now can take those things and say, I'm not defined by my past. I'm not defined by my pain. I am not defined by the things that happened to me, but literally there is a treasure on the inside of me that I can discover and walk in and then release it to my world, generating value. Thank you so much, Clyde. I really appreciate you sharing the beautiful, authentic journey that you've been on. As we close, is there anything that you feel you want the audience to know?
Yes. Discover your true you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't live in this false view of yourself, because the world is always trying to get us to separate and isolate. And the further you go in that, you'll keep spiraling out. But what I've learned to discover, this beautiful process of identity, being free in your true self. And when you can be free in your true self, you will be able to approach life with confidence, with joy, have peace, and begin to conquer your destiny. And forgiveness is the biggest thing that I had to walk through.
Yeah.
So forgiving is freedom. It's life. It's amazing. So thank you so much for having me on. It was absolutely beautiful.
I just want to communicate to everyone listening that what Clyde has received and walked in, it is for you as well. Thank you so much for being a part of my story. I want to thank you for listening and encourage you to become a part of the Stop Devaluation movement. Be sure to like and follow #StopDevaluation on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and visit StopDevaluation.com for more information and free resources. You can help spread the movement by sharing with others, leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, and most of all, by living a courageous lifestyle of using your power for good. Go out and value someone today. Your life matters, and you can make the world a better place. One word, one choice, one action of validation at a time.